Hello and welcome to the Facebook Ad Kingdom podcast. Here we tackle some of the biggest questions surrounding Facebook ads, e-com businesses, entrepreneurship, products, and much more. Now, we also don't swear that much, so it's kind of kosher. I think that's good. I'm your host, Morty Rapp, and with me is my co-host and my boss, Azrael Ratz, the king of Facebook ads, owner of Rats Pack Media. Welcome to the show. Let's do this. Are you ready?
Absolutely. This is a long time coming, this podcast, so I'm glad we're making this happen.
Yeah, this is going to be wild. This is going to be wild. So, I kind of want to just jump in with a heavy hitter here. Okay, you ready? This is an easy one for you. It's the big debate, creative versus ad management. On the one side, you have brilliant people coming up with amazing ideas, even if they just end up being a picture. And on the other extreme, you have Azrael. You have the person in the back end looking at the algorithm, checking it out, making sure everything works. What's better? How do we weigh one versus the other?
So, at the end of the day, the ad will never be successful if the creative is terrible. I would take that back. It will almost definitely not be successful unless the product is just so amazing that it could sell without good creative. But creative is what drives people to engage with an ad. So if you don't have good creative, or at least like half decent creative, the chances it will not be successful. But what Facebook has managed to do is create a platform that looks really easy to use, but is actually really complicated. When you go into Ads Manager and you see just how many little buttons there are to press and drop down menus that you could select from, and how each of those things engage and change how your ad works, if you don't know what that backend is doing, and you're just hoping I'm going to press a few buttons and it's magically going to create the best performing targeting possible, you're like greatly mistaken. Like, it is going to be a bad time for you if you're just hoping I'm just going to target broad and hope that I'm going to reach the people I want to reach. There are businesses that can work for. If you already have a Facebook pixel with millions and millions of website visitors, and you already have a huge email list, and you already have an engaged, social platform, then maybe I can get away with just targeting broad and I would get decent results. But it's very unlikely that I would just target broad and get the best results possible. Like, it's unlikely. I'm just going to set up what's now called an ASC campaign, Advantage Shopping campaign, and that will magically get me the best results possible. It is not going to happen. So it's only by taking great creative, a lot of great creative, which we can get into, how much great creative, and active management to make sure that every day you're spending the right dollars on the right group of people, whether that's warm audiences like your email, your website visitors, your video viewers, your followers on social, or your lookalike audiences, or your interest targeting, or your geographic targeting, or your broad targeting, and then make sure they see the right ad and funnel in that system. And if you're not there to make sure that those things are happening, it's likely that you're inefficiently running and spending the dollars of your business every single day. So it's not that, can I just have really great creative? Can I just have really great ad management? It is very much having both. But just like you can't run the very same video for 20 years, you can't just set up your ad platform and come back in a month and hope that it's going to keep working for you.
Yeah, I find that so interesting because, my background, I'm coming from 13 years on the creative side, right? And I literally put creative on the pedestal. And it almost sounds like there's this chicken and egg debate here, but how does a person balance those two things? Because at the end of the day, we're talking about money being spent. A company is going to have to throw a lot of money, a lot, just to to actually have an impact, right? So on the one hand, I want to spend money on creative, and now creative is a huge, it's a huge topic, right? I mean, we're talking about, if it's a photo shoot, we're talking about just like the actual idea of getting a photo shoot up and running, and then we're just talking about photos. I mean, it's a big expense. Video, forget it. It's like it's times 10 on that. So a company's really debating, well, how much money do I invest in the creative? And at a certain point, they're saying, well, the more money I invest in creative, the less money I really have to spend on ad distribution, right? So the actual ad spend itself, and then the fees I have to pay to an agency or to a freelancer or to whoever, right? So what do you like? How does a person make that decision even? Where do you even value those two things?
So in a business, when you're spending money, the question to me is, if I'm taking this dollar with the hope that it's going to turn into 12, then for on the ad side, I wouldn't ask how much does it cost. I would ask how much can I spend that will get me that return, right? Like if you had a vending machine and every time I put a dollar in, it gives me 7, I would find every dollar that I could find. So
Right.
the good news about Facebook ads is that there's a lot of businesses that I talk to and they say, "Oh, I probably need like a huge amount of dollars to run proper Facebook ads." And the true answer is, at the very beginning, you probably don't need that much money, right? When you first start running Facebook ads, you could target just to very specific people. We mentioned the warm audiences already. So if you already have like an email list and website visitors and Instagram engagers, you probably can set up like a relatively basic campaign without having to, pay someone lots and lots of money right at the very beginning and get good result, like great results. In fact, I might say that those dollars early on would be the most impactful dollars because they're reaching the very best people very early on versus when you start
Mm,
targeting cold audiences that now they're not as good. The people are not as high quality. They're not someone who already knows your business. They're not someone who already, is on your email list. So
right.
the cost to get them to buy is going to be higher. And that's when you need an expert to run the ads. When
Right.
I'm
Right.
just targeting, my 10,000 Instagram engagers, I don't need an agency to set that up. The actual step-by-step process might only take a couple of minutes on the ad setup side for that very early, setup in ads. And now that shows me this is what I could achieve. All the pieces are right. I have decent creative and I'm targeting the right people and my funnel's working and my products aren't out of stock. You learn all these other parts of the business are also important. It's not just creative. If you don't have your best seller for sale, then you're not going to sell anything. So you have all those things in place and you put a dollar in and then Facebook targets and all of a sudden you're turning a dollar into 28, which I've seen on these campaigns. Like I've seen numbers like that where you're targeting your email list very early on and you're getting 32 times return on ad spend
Right.
because that's going to be the best dollar that you spend. And it's only when you're spending 10, 15, 20, 100, 200, $1 million. Those are all thousands, if that wasn't clear. 100,000, not 100, $100,000.
I just wanted to spend 100.
It's at 100. The first 100 you probably don't need to pay an agency to set it up, right? That initial test probably doesn't need it, but it gives you a good ballpark to tell you what your cost should be, right? Like you'll get
Mm,
numbers. What is your average cost per impression when you run those ads? What is the
right.
cost per click? What's the
Right.
conversion rate on your site? And then you learn those numbers, and now you can come to an agency. In fact, as an agency, I prefer that they've run some tests already, so I can come in and say, "Whoa, look at these opportunities! You never tested your warm audiences, only broad. Well, you never tried lookalikes. Well, you never tested videos, and you just like see what they've already tested, and then you're able to see from there what they could do even better.
Right.
And
And you have
so
benchmarks.
and your benchmarks, and they kind of know like, okay, does it cost $10 for 1,000 impressions or $152, which is way too expensive? And now, how do you figure out how to get that price down? So having those initial tests is actually beneficial when you're hiring agencies, so they can come in and say, look, we can expect these results. You've already run them versus I've never run a single dollar in ads. I have no idea what it's going to look like. It's a surprise, going forward. But that initial setup probably doesn't require someone holding your hand to set it up. Now, obviously, if you got lots of things, you're a CEO, you probably shouldn't be the one in the ad account day one or day 100, which I've seen a lot of businesses. The CEO is still the one, editing the ad spend every day, which is a little crazy.
Crazy. That's
But
crazy.
what that shows is once you started that campaign and you let an agency look at it and they say to you, you got these things right. Here are the 10 things you didn't do right. Now we can figure out how we could how can we scale the budget. I meet so many businesses, like we managed to get to $10,000 a month, but every time we went to 11, results plummeted. And so that's when it takes the mind of someone who's been doing that management for a long time and figuring out,
Right.
maybe it's you run out of warm people to talk to, right? If you maybe at $10,000, you're just talking to that same group of emails and website visitors, and at that point, you're just reaching them too many times. They're not going to buy those same 10,000 people
Right.
aren't buying every single time they see an ad. So then that requires doing those tests to broad, lookalike, interest, geography, expansion, whatever, and then building campaigns that are capable of scaling. And so that's when it takes someone who knows what they're doing. That's
Gotcha.
the stage that getting from $2,000 a month to $200,000 a month is when you need that person who knows what they're doing. And the good news is you don't need 2,000. You don't need 200,000 to start. You just need 200,000 when it's already when 199,000 was working. Then you go up.
It's a scalar. It's a scalar. It's a put the money.
scalar.
It's a dollar in the machine. Put the dollar, get out 25. I like it. That's what we'll get. So to summarize, it sounds like creative has to be at least good. Obviously, the better the creative, the better. But you got to be in this good stage. And the ad management is just a no-brainer, meaning you have to know how to use the back end, or you're just going to be wasting money.
Yeah. But
Okay.
on top of that, with the creative, what's amazing about the ad platform is that you are able to learn new things about your creative and then create more stuff based on the results. So you're able to see, in the ad platform, it kind of looks like an Excel spreadsheet, which I assume it intimidates a lot of people. You're seeing an
I
Excel
thought everybody
spreadsheet.
loves Excel spreadsheets.
I love Excel spreadsheets.
Ladies and gentlemen, Azriel loves Excel spreadsheets.
That's correct. Put that on my gravestone. Loved Excel spreadsheets. So you come in and you give Facebook 5-10 creatives early on, which of course cost a bunch of money to make, and now you're actually able to see, oh, this one got shares, this one got engagement, this one got clicks, this one got purchases, and then from that you're able to dissect that and say, okay, these three were the best performers. I now know this model does well, this product does well, this angle, this sort of picture, this carousel. And so you start learning what sort of things work. And then you go back to your creative team and say, listen, we need more like this, make that happen. And so as opposed to, where these big companies, they'll pay for a huge campaign. Kylie Jenner, walking with a Pepsi can, they probably paid her millions of dollars for that little commercial. They make it, they put it out, and that's it. Like the commercial's done. Then they don't now go back into studio, recreate another 47 versions of it, and run those as ads pinpointing to that exact user that works well. Like, remember we were just talking about there's different types of people you talk to, the warm, the lookalike, the interest, the broad, whatever. Now imagine you find out that in each group, there's an ad that works well for that person. And now you can go back to your creative team and say, I need 3 ads for this group and 3 ads for that group and 3 ads for that group. So I assume you remember that Old Spice campaign that happened with that guy in the towel. And so he had this whole thing on Twitter where he made like little videos responding to each person. And it was like this crazy campaign. I think when they look back, it didn't actually lead to sales, which is crazy. Like it didn't actually have an uptick.
But it was brand recognition, right? So
100%.
It's an intangible.
But I would still say it was a fail if the point was sales. I mean, if the point was Old Spice, everyone was talking about it, great. But if the point was sales, then not. But what they were able to do is basically have a campaign that morphed over time into something that got that specific user group to engage. And that's exactly what you're able to do with Facebook ads. You start off with 5 to 10 creatives, you throw them at the wall for each group, and then you learn, wow, Warm really engages with that type of ad, that carousel. They like collection, they like stories, they like reels, they like slideshows, they like videos, they like UGC, and you sort of learn what works, and you can go back to the creatives and say, hey, I need each of these types, and now make them specific for that group, knowing that that's the person I'm reaching. And that's exactly that's what Facebook ads allows you to do that other things don't, right? When you post on Instagram, it goes everywhere. When you run a TV commercial, it's on TV. Now, TV has gotten smarter. You can, buy zip code and show a different commercial to different people, and they definitely do that. But it's not possible to say, I want a woman 25 to 35 to see this one commercial and 35 to 45 to see this different ad. And if they already engage with my Instagram, show them this video. And so that's what these online ads allow for. And that's when you really can create these very specialized pieces of creative that maybe only a dozen people will see, but it'll be so incredibly impactful for that user that they will go and engage and buy. To me, that the
So
buying
so the
part
data, it sounds like the data feeds the creative in so many ways. So
for sure.
so I imagine with your clients, you see some kind of pattern, you say, "Hey, wait a second. We have this and this group of people who have never bought from us engaging with X. How do we replicate X and scale that out?" Right?
100%.
That's
100%.
cool. Okay, so right. So they interact with each other. Creative and ad management, those two things actually mesh.
We all just
And
have to get along.
we all just have to get along, even when your ad management Excel spreadsheet is not the way that you want it to be. I could keep going. You answered something else that I actually had here written down on my piece of paper digitally. The number of ads. Is there a typical number of ads that a company should be running? And, this is a perfect segue because you kind of tackled it a little bit.
Yeah. So there is definitely such a thing as too few ads. That's definitely a scenario. I've been
Like
to
five.
five. Five is very few ads. So I've been to, I go on, there's actually a place, if people aren't familiar, Facebook has a thing called Facebook Ads Library. You just search it on Google and you could go and search basically any business page and they will show you their active ads, most of their active ads. You can see what they're running, but I'll show you like how many active ads are running. So it's like crazy to me to see when a business only has 7 or 8 active ads. So as far as how many ads they have to have active, obviously the more the merrier, but the goal of an ad is that the user is engaging and moving to the site and purchasing. Almost always, that's the point of, especially for e-commerce. The point is that the user is coming and they're swiping their credit card. If at the end of the day that swipe credit card isn't happening, you begin to question, why am I doing all of this stuff? But as far as like the number of creative, so on day one, if a business comes to me and says, here's 500 videos, there's no way to test on day one 500 videos. And already having created them without doing that testing we already spoke about is like a big waste, because you might find that none of those videos are the right, piece of content. In fact, I tell businesses that
Wow.
piece of content you hate that you don't want to use, that's the one we need. That's the one that's going to resonate with the users, are going to get the clicks, the one that stands out and doesn't look right. I had a client, like, they had this picture and like the model didn't like fit with the sort of model they like to work with, and like the lighting wasn't good, and the product wasn't like very visible, and that was the ad that was doing the best. And it took me, like, I had a fight with them, like, no, we're not turning this off. It only was when the product was sold out that I finally agreed to turn the ad off. But like, that one you don't like, that's going to be the one. And you only learn that when you've run a lot of ads. So I have a client, they have like 7,000 active ads. And so
Holy cow.
the goal is that you start off, you put in your 5 to 10, and then you sort of learn along the way what's working, what's not. And then a good cadence for new creative is about, let's say 4 to 8 new pieces of creative. So if you can have like two carousels, 3 images, 3-4 videos,
Right.
every single week, that allows us to keep feeding the system, and it alleviates what's called like ad fatigue, seeing people seeing the same ad over and over again.
Right,
Because if they're
right,
seeing a different piece of creative all the time, even though it might be the same product, you might only have one product to sell, right? And so how do I keep showing these people the same ad? It's not by showing them the same ad, it's by showing them a little bit different every single day. So like, I have this big client, we're not going to mention their name, and the difference between a year 1 and year 2 of working together was making 21 million and making 31 million. Where was the extra $10 million from? It was from deciding to upload new creative weekly versus monthly. So
Wow.
So they do a launch every first Tuesday of the month, and they would release 9, I think maybe it was, let's say 12 products during that period. And they said, well, if we just split up the 12 over the 3 out of the 4 weeks of the month, so now it's 4 products over 3 weeks versus 12 products in 1 week. And so what we would do originally was year 1, we were running 10 pieces of creative, all focused on these 12 pieces of product. We launched them all on the first Tuesday. We have this huge uptick in sales that Tuesday, Wednesday, and then it was sort of flatline by the end of the month. We were like, we need more content. They're like, oh, it's coming in 2 more weeks. So I just waited out. And then we like looked at the data at the end of the year, and that happened every time, every first Tuesday of the month. All of a sudden this big peak. And they said, well, what if we just split up our 10 launches a year to 48? We're not doing anything different. We're not making more product than normal. We're not making more content than normal. We're just splitting it up over time.
Right.
So now instead of having 38 creatives uploaded every Tuesday, every first Tuesday, we had 6 or 7 uploaded every Tuesday. So now we do 48 launches a month plus, and that's about 8
Wow.
creatives. Plus, we're using organic posts. Plus, we have UGCs. Plus, we have influencers. So the time we're done weekly, we're probably uploading 10 to 15 new creatives every single week. And that's how, after doing this
Right.
for 4 years, you turn around and have 7,000 active ads, right?
Exactly.
But
So as an ad management, you're looking for that arsenal. You want to have that
right,
already in hand.
right. Well, I want some made, and then I want to have that ability to go back to the creative and say, we have these things that are working, make
Right.
more like that. I don't want to
Mhm.
have 1,000 because before testing, because we don't know that any of them are going to work. So
Right.
that's really, so as far as how many ads you should have, the answer is you should have the ability to be making more content available so that when you see something that works, you're able to jump on that and have a new piece
Right.
of content made. The good news is that nowadays there's so many ways to make content that you don't have to go in every time and do another photo shoot, and you don't need to
Right.
hire a whole set of actors. Like there's so many opportunities with like UGC creators, and like I
Right.
met this brand and they're just starting out, and the founder every month finds 100 influencers. Now, we're not talking about people like Kylie Jenner with 100 million followers. We're talking about people with 10,000, 20,000, 13,000 followers. She reaches out to them and says, hey, you're the sort of person that I feel would like my product. I'd love to send you a free thing. Maybe they charge, maybe they don't charge, some money for that post. And then she's getting content created for relatively cheap because it's not someone that has a huge
Right.
following, but it's someone that fits their demographic, that looks
Right.
like the person that their customers look like. They know how to make content
Mm.
because they're actively making content. And
Cool.
that allows you to constantly have a new stream of different looking ads by doing this sort of thing. Now, it does take a lot of time. And at some point, I hope that that founder finds someone else to do that for her. But
Yeah, I imagine there's platforms to be able to handle like
for
UGC
sure.
at scale, right? Those I know those already exist. But yeah, the point is that volume is an important part of this. Agility seems to be even the greatest weight. This ability to be able to act fast on the data that you see that's trending right here, right now. It's translatable to sales if you're able to keep up with that demand. That sounds like a behemoth, but if you get that recipe right,
Yeah,
like you said, money in, lots of money out, right?
for sure. Absolutely.
Let's ask one last question here. In the Facebook ad kingdom, what are some of the most surprising things you've seen in the Facebook ad ecosystem throughout your career?
Yeah. So I would say the first one is one I already mentioned, which is you would think if a business like spent a long time on a piece of creative and it looks beautiful and they got like all the right models and everything's right about it and they got all the product in that, that's the one that's going to work. But usually it's that bad lighting, bad, like not good image, like low quality that doesn't really fit. Like that ends up being the creative that works, and you don't really expect that when you first start out with ads. Like if I make a really nice piece of content, then people are going to engage with it, but that's not
Right.
usually how it works, especially nowadays where the feed, people want to relate more to the content in
Yes.
their feed. And as an
Yes.
ad buyer on Facebook and Instagram, we have to realize like the platform we are on, the ads have to fit that. So just like a pretty looking picture might not be the thing that fits well with the customer. And what you need is that scrappy looking piece of
Yes.
content
Yes.
that ends
Yes.
up working well. And that's like a surprising thing because you think
Right.
you look at these big companies with millions and millions of dollars, billions of dollars, and they're making these beautiful pieces of content, and they likely are not working that well on social media, those pieces of content.
Right. They're
While these
doing
little,
like 1.2 ROAS or something like
right,
that.
something like they're probably not making very much money, and then brands will look to them and say, oh, I should do something like that, but that sort of formula would never work for them. The
Right.
second surprising thing that I find is that there are brands today in 2024 that don't really do ads. Like these are brands that it would make sense
Ads
for
at
them.
all or Facebook ads?
Facebook ads, that they
Right.
already have a following. They built an audience. They have a product that sells. They have a good average cart. They figured out all their margins. but they just don't run any ads. Like I've gone to brands, they're making 7, 8, $22 million. I met a brand about a year ago. They have, I'm not going to say the product because it makes it very easy to find out who it is. They have a product. They have a big following. They have hundreds of millions of views on YouTube. They have a big following on Instagram, and they don't run $1 on ads, a single dollar. And we spoke earlier in this about how the first couple of dollars you spend are going to be incredibly powerful. Instagram engagers, website visitors, email subscribers, those people are the most powerful, ready to buy. They're ready to buy. And all they need is just that call to action that says, click here and buy my thing. And they're not doing it. And that's like, to me, it's crazy because it's not like the vending machine. Maybe I put $1 in and maybe I'll get something like a surprise. Maybe like the Cheetos thing will get stuck inside.
They're already there. They will buy. We know they will.
No, these are people like this is back in the day when businesses didn't have add to cart emails, right? And you're just like, there's a piece of data, which is for every one person that bought on your store, 2 people abandoned their cart. 67% of users abandoned cart. So someone came in and said, like, what if I just emailed them at that stage and said, hey, remember that thing that you didn't buy for me? How many people can you get to buy? This is exactly the same thing. Like, these are people, they've engaged with your videos. They've liked you on social. They've messaged you on Instagram. They follow you on your email list. And they just haven't had that call to action that said, hey, remember this thing you like to buy? And that is a really simple thing to do on Facebook ads that you can get up today. Like we're talking about, 20 minutes of work on Facebook can get you millions of extra dollars in sales before you ever have to dip your toe in the cold audience and the lookalike and the broad and the ASC and all that stuff.
And the question is, why?
Why? That to me is every day is the most surprising thing. So if you're a brand that's making like $10 million and you don't have any Facebook ads,
I know a guy. I have a guy. I have a guy. Cool. All right. Well, this is episode 1 of the Facebook Ad Kingdom, the king of Facebook ads right here. We hope to make a lot of these or a little. Only time will tell. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you gained something out of it. And feel free to engage with us. Like, subscribe, all those things.
All the things.
Social media people say at the end of their podcasts. And we'll have more to come. So this is just episode 1. So hold on to your knickers. Is that going to be our tagline?
You do love that tagline.
Do we have, does Rats Pack Media have a tagline?
We don't yet have a tagline. If anyone has a tagline, but this is not a decision by popular vote. I've seen that in the past. It will not be Bodie McBoatface. That will not be the tagline. But if you have to suggest a tagline, you write that in the comments.
You have a lot to work with. You have the king, right? King of Facebook ads. You got Kingdom, Monarchy,
and also we got the socks. Can't forget the socks.
Socks. We have rats also.
We have so many
rodents.
Rodents. Morty in this little research found out that a group of rats is actually called a mischief. So
come on, there's something to work with there.
There's definitely something there.
Okay, to more mischief. Clink. We're gonna eventually need to get mugs, by the way. So let's just do that.
Just put it on the corporate card. I'm sure someone will pay for it.